Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for clicking on our faces. We are here today to discuss another book for this month. We are Like Brew book review, and we bring you a new book every month to discuss. So this month was actually E Boogie selection. The name of the book is right here, along with the synopsis, When No One Is Watching by Alicia Cole. You can pause to read, but basically, a young woman by the name of Sydney Green, born and raised in Brooklyn, right? She is living there as gentrification is happening, but this is a little more than that. There's some oddities happening. There's some sort of supernatural esque events. It felt like in the book. We're going to discuss, but let's get into it. E Boogie, let us know, why did you pick this book for this month?
Okay, so I had a few books just saved in my wish list. I really want to start reading more Black authors, and this was at the top because it's also a thriller and it has a female protagonist, which that is just my bag. And honestly, the themes of history and the setting in Brooklyn, and discussions about race and gentrification and the implications of gentrification on a historical neighborhood such as hers. That is like my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. I love like talking about history. I love learning about history, and I thought that this book did a really good job of incorporating history into it. Even though it's a fiction, there were still some valid arguments and things that they shared and history lessons in it.
Mhm.
It also was my first book from this author, Alyssa Cole, and her first thriller book, apparently. So I thought that was also a nice little tie-in. Should I go into my thoughts on the book yet?
Please do, please do.
Sure. Okay. Something about Sydney felt so relatable. She seemed like someone I would want to hang out with. Her and oh God, is her best friend's name Deidre?
Hold on, I've wrote it down. Yeah,
Drea. His name is Drea.
Drea.
Her and Drea seem like two girls that I would love to kick it with. I really like their friendship. I sensed early on that Sydney had a chip on her shoulder, that she had been through some traumatic experiences, and they allude to it throughout the story of what happened in her last relationship and her, I guess, her first real time moving away from home. With her husband. And so I just felt her being in this fraught time of trying to heal, of having lost her mother, and just kind of having the weight of all of that on her as she's trying to keep things up, keep things going, keep the house, and keep the community garden together. And then kind of bearing witness to things just changing in her home, changing in her neighborhood, and these people, her neighbors that feel like family to her, and feel like her stomping grounds are just like disappearing. And I just really connected with Sydney. I really liked her. Alternatively, the way the author kind of guides you to despise this Kim character, who is the ex-girlfriend of Theo, the love interest for Sydney. I know some Kims. I have worked with several Kims. And it's always this like, like this frailty about them, but it's always like backed by some like sinister true nature of them. And so yeah, it gave me the willies kind of being in their home and seeing her true nature just be, I guess, free. I don't know. It was a lot. Theo creeped me out for a lot of the book and I was suspicious of him when with the iPad and everything. Like I was like, I knew it. Like I kind of felt like I was waiting for him to
Wait,
be revealed.
this is
All right,
spoiler free.
sorry.
Spoiler free.
Sorry. Point being, if because I was so invested in this book from the front to, I want to say, till the last 10 pages, I kind of was like, I didn't love the last small sliver of where the story went.
Okay.
And I was laughing out loud. And I was just I had a lot of big reactions to the story. I'm going to give it a 4-2. It was up. Really, really enjoyed this most of the way through. The ending wasn't bad, but it happened really, really fast.
Okay.
And it kind of went in a direction that I didn't think the book was going to go. But I don't know. I see why it went that way. I see why the heroes were who they were. And I was satisfied with some of the deaths at the end. So, yeah.
Okay. So 4.2 stars. Very nice. Yeah. Stephanie O, would you like to go next?
Sure. I kind of told the book review crew before we went live that, I've been mulling this over. Thank the Lord I did not finish this book minutes before the review, right? So I will give my review in a pro and con fashion. Pro, it eventually got decent, right? I wanted, and it's a spoiler free, but it takes a strong 16 chapters before you like, finally, okay, my God. So it's only about 25 guys. So took way too long to get going, but it did eventually get there. I would also say the biggest pro and the only reason it got the stars it got from me was similar to what E said. I can appreciate history. I can appreciate giving a backstory to make it clear and help us understand why and where we are. I also like some of the issues they tackled that really are issues being faced in the world today. I listened to the epilogue and was able to hear from the author herself and understand what her end game was with the book. So that softened me up a bit. A con, like he said, when it came to Sydney, I thought she was nuts. I was like, this girl is either hallucinating on some drugs or something. Like, I was like, something off with her. I thought that her and Drea had a very like codependent relationship. I didn't like that. I felt like, are y'all friends? Like, even when Sydney started questioning it, I was like, are they friends? Like I have some thoughts on their friendship. But given that it picked up eventually, and then Theo, I want to talk about Theo too. I won't, spoiler free. Theo, I couldn't even put him in a pro or con bucket. He's going into other for me.
Okay.
And given that, and given how I tend to rate, I could at best give this book about 2.75.
What?
2.75. That's the best I could do.
2.75.
It started at about 2.5, but I as I was talking through it aloud again, 2.75.
Oh, it's strict around here. I see, real strict. Okay, well, so my thoughts of the book. I immediately, I felt a connection to Sydney. I felt like there's something about this book that's, even though it's set in Brooklyn, it's very universal to like the Black urban experience, even though I hate the word urban. But if you grew up in an area that's like a city area and you grew up, Black, you kind of, it's a familiar setting, right? Even with like, the tin cans in her mother's like closet and like the Avion lady. There are certain aspects in the book that I feel like are very universal to a lot of Black experiences. And I love that. When it came to the subject matter of the book was at its heart, it was about gentrification. I thought it was a very interesting way to frame it, how there was this whole sinister kind of, backstory. I was like, okay, are they snatching bodies? Like, what's going on here? Like, is it like some kind of spooks going on? Is it just like corporate greed? What is happening? I liked how they kind of like, made that into the story, wove that in there. And even dealing with Sydney's like, mental health struggles, they covered that. There was so much that was covered in the book, almost to the point that it was like a little too much. It was like some points it was like, okay, trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. I was like, okay, can she, take a breath? Um, but I was very much interested from the beginning, and it wasn't any specific area that I can remember that it was slow for me. I thought it was very nicely paced, even though the end did feel a bit rushed. But I feel like even if something is rushed, I'd rather something be rushed than something be slow, child. Like if it's slow, I'm liable to not finish. So if there has to be a pace, I'd prefer it to be a little rushed. But overall, until like the last few chapters, I do feel like it was paced pretty well. So with that being said, there were a few things that bothered me that we can discuss in our next half of the discussion here when we get into our spoiler section. But overall, I do believe it's deserving of a 4 star. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 star. 4 stars, 4 out of 5. So that's what we got. We got 4.7. We got 2.7. Was it
275?
Okay, 7.5. And 4.2. Hold on, turn your mic off. Turn your mic back off.
I said 4.2.
Oh, 4.2. Okay, well, I give it 4.
Right. It was good. It was good, but 4.7 is like.
Okay. 4.2.
I don't see nothing getting up that high.
And I gave it a 4. So now this portion of the show, we will be slipping into our sport. Okay, straight off the bat, was Theo a Dusty or not? Was Theo a Dusty? Because he was giving me Dusty vibes whole time.
Big Dust. And medium ugly.
Okay, first of all, medium ugly can work. It can work. And as Drea demonstrated, the body was bodying. When he had to take the shirt off and was covering that mug, the body.
That's why it was medium ugly. That was the medium, the body.
That was the medium.
She would have never talked. Theo would have never talked to her, and she would have never talked to Theo had they not been in this crazy neighborhood situation.
Listen, quiet as it's kept, Stephanie O is very strict when it comes to looks. She think everybody ugly, so we're not even going to take her advice.
She might have a point on that one. But that said, you're right. I also don't think they ever would have talked, but I think there's more to it than just their looks. I think like the way that this is painted is like they would have never even been in the same circles except for gentrification.
Yeah. Now that might not be true because Theo was from the other side of the tracks, right? And what I didn't like, if anything, as this was a Black novel, why do her love interest got to be unemployed, poor by birth, ugly? Like, dang, was anything going well?
And he got the nerve, and she got the nerve to be the what's it called? The rebound child. Like, girl.
Right, because he lived with his girlfriend who just put him out. And now he gets to have some of her cat? I don't think so. Like, come on, man.
That's
nothing.
That's true. I was thinking the whole time, is he Dusty or not? Because she's a rebound. He has a whole girlfriend that he's living with. He doesn't come from nothing. And it's like, at one point, it was hard to get him to, say something. He started sticking up for her and them a little bit, and like midway through, I would say. But I don't know, something about him was giving a little Dusty.
So he partially owned that house he was living in. That's why he lived there, right? He also still was able to pay the mortgage. Like he was unemployed. Don't get me wrong. He was unemployed.
He was a thief. He was stealing.
He stole from and he stole from. I think that the concept that he stole from white folks and from corporations was a key factor to the plot of this story. Like he is like them, but he uses it.
Hold on, didn't he steal old Dre's? Wait, no, he stole Dre's air conditioner, girl. He's stealing from everybody.
See, but did he steal that? Or Kim might have stole that.
Yeah, Kim stole that.
Oh, okay.
Kim stole that.
I feel like he is an indiscriminate Dusty. Like, he's not using his whiteness to take advantage of or have a one-up on people who are not white. He's using his whiteness against white people to serve himself. It's like, it's not, there wasn't like he's one of them. He had some one of them tendencies, which is why they had the howdy doody word. So but he knew that, okay, yeah, there's some, he was able to like have an internal conversation throughout this story that was like, okay, yeah, I got some whiteness I need to put myself in check on. Like, I don't feel like that person exists in real life at all, but I feel like for the purpose of the story and the plot, like, he served his purpose. And I don't feel like he was a lead either. He was just to me, like a witness to everything that Sydney was going through. If there wasn't him it built into the story, then she would seem like she's a crazy person, because there wasn't somebody else there to see that, oh, Tony, who took over the bodega, is straight up saying he's about to steal her money. If there wasn't somebody witnessing all of these little things happening, like even with the garden, like I felt like, had there not been other people there to watch her fall apart, like, I would be thinking, okay, she's kind of like, she's on the brink, like she's about to break, like something's going on.
But with that thought in mind, it brings me to another question I wrote down. Did Theo take advantage of Sydney by sleeping with her, knowing that her mental health was a little sketchy?
Yes. I think any man would, though. I really think any man would have. Men just are.
See, so if he did, like, I honestly, I felt as if he did take advantage of her, crumbling mental health in that moment. Stephanie, you're shaking your head. No, your thoughts?
I feel we got to back up a second, because again, let's add that to the list. So not only was the love interest a thief who stole from rich people, the love interest was a thief. Like, everything about him screams he should have never, like, because, and I only say this because when he was with Lululemon Kim, she, he was an upstanding white collar guy. And now that his true colors have come out, now he's good enough to date the main character of a black novel. Like, no, he's a loser.
He was a thief while he was with Kim. That's why he got fired.
But he wasn't shown as a thief, though. He was this, I get up for work, I have a great job.
That's what he was hiding his true nature. He can be himself with Sydney if you want.
So he get to be himself with the black woman. Like, come on now.
Oh, but do you think he took advantage of her mental health by sleeping with her?
I do not, because guess what? Real recognize real. He was unhinged too. They was both. They deserved each other. She wasn't getting nobody else, and he wasn't getting nobody else. So you know what? Have at it.
Like, I don't know. I feel like there was one inner monologue he had where he was like, "Oh yeah, this is too much." Like, after he done got the cook, he was like, "I don't even know if I can hang with all of this."
So he was a plot device, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I don't know. He left like he did some good things, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I look at him as a leading man and as someone who had great intentions all the way through. I don't know.
No.
He couldn't
even shoot.
He wasn't guilty either. With that iPad, I knew that was not him. A blind man could have been able to tell that was Kim talking to somebody else.
I'm seeing in a woman, and for 2 seconds I was like, "Yo, is this serious?"
I was like, "She complete." In my mind, I was like, "She complete," but I said, "That's how I knew." I was like, "She's nuts," because she don't even get, like. Of course, he's not talking to Kim. Kim don't even want him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, "Oh, she's crazy." I think that's why I really thought she was crazy.
Had we have not had the chapters with his perspective, it would have been more, convincing. Like, it could have been him. But for a second, I was like, oh. But then I thought about, like, hold on, we just read several chapters of him, hating Kim's guts. Right. So that's the only reason I was like, But yeah.
I was like, they've been putting on airs this whole time. This was just to trick us. And he's a damn devil, girl. Shoot him.
That's the only thing he was. I did believe he had a good heart and character, but other than that, I said he's a loser, and it's a shame. But in my mind, I'm like, well, dang, she could have just been with a black dude if he gonna be all these negative things. Like, what she need a white co-star for if he's a bum? She can get a black bum.
when it comes to this, right? This was my concern too about the book, because as someone who dates white men, right? I was thinking, dang, a lot of this book was a little bashy. But then later on in the book, no, later on in the book, it was made more clear that, oh, yeah, this isn't just saying that, these people are white, right? There were, Black people in this boardroom. There were, Asian people in this boardroom. I wish that was made a little bit more clear earlier in the book, because prior to that, it kind of did come across as a, anti, bashing of a certain race. And I'm like, that's a little, you don't want to come across like that. But when it came, you didn't get that? I got it. Because even when they were at the end, when they were going through this facility, and that's underground facility, and he was saying, or somebody said that we need a plan, and she was like, "What? We just going to shoot all the white folks but you?" And I'm like, "Okay, it's yeah." See, it's like, okay, why is it just the white folks? But it's later in the book, it makes it clear that's more than just that. But yeah, I just wish that Theo was a better leading man, because yeah, he's dusty, child.
Did we ever get clarified the race of Marcus or the ex-husband? I feel like that wasn't.
No, I'm assuming it's Black with a name like Marcus.
But we shouldn't assume.
I don't think a white man is dealing with Sydney for real. Only Theo. I don't think white men are. That's not her market. She's Black. She too Black.
I get the
power.
feeling that Theo is her first white man. That's all.
I don't think she know nothing about that genre.
That's her.
And them Sydney's be the ones that the white men do be clamoring for, the ones that are all
with the braids. You don't know
you know what I'm saying, with the braids and all that. That's
but
exactly
Marcus was tearing her down. Though. Remember, Marcus was very disrespectful, tearing her down. He was cheating
after they moved.
Yeah, Marcus was a Black man in my mind.
And what white man named Marcus?
That's what I'm saying.
They exist. What white men named Jerome? They exist.
No, they don't.
That's my point.
No, they don't. That's the name he must have on in his community. But no white mom is naming her son Jerome or Marcus.
We'll talk off air. I'll show you my Jerome.
Jerome.
I'll show you my Jerome example.
But another twist that I thought, well, there were a couple twists. When we find out that the mother, is actually, dead, it was like
that
she was
crazy.
Yes,
before her mom was in a nursing home. Now that one, they got me on that. I knew
they got me on that, because I was like, oh yeah, she's just not available. She's not taking these collection calls. And then when another trauma where she had to bury her mother in the garden.
Her best friend. I'm not carrying nobody. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, Stephanie said it. I don't care how tight I am with anybody. I'm not carrying a corpse.
Man,
the body.
We want to talk offline, because I don't know what to say.
Heck no, I ain't doing it. I'm sorry. I love you. I pray for you. I don't want to see it. That'll haunt me. And then when his friend was dead in the stairwell, how you didn't know your best friend was missing? How you didn't smell a decaying body? They say when you die, your fluids come out. It should be poop and piss smelling.
Yeah, that's true.
That body been in there for, when you talk about rigor mortis, girl, it should be
and it was hot. And it was hot, summertime.
And you didn't. That's why I'm like, she was nuts. Sydney was crazy. This could have all been a dream. And the author just didn't say at the end, and I woke up from my nap. Like, literally.
I've been mad as hell.
Me too. But, and also the reveal of Drea kind of like, forcing or being the cause of her mother's the loss of her mother's home. Like, that was a big reveal.
We don't know that though. We don't know what that money
we do, because the text that she ends up finding off of her dead body was her trying to say I'm sorry to Sydney. And
but the house was already gone by the time Drea came back to live with her. The mother,
she's the one who connected the corporation to Sydney's mother, because they were looking for people to, hey, like, if you know someone who needs to, we're in debt, trying to get their home, so connect us to there, and you get like a little cutback. She saw the check that was given to Drea in her home when she saw the bed bugs and stuff on her bed. So all the connections were connecting, girl. So she definitely did it.
See, I didn't gather that, but you know what? I will say, had we really had more time, she should have cashed that check. I would have signed it, Drea's name, and said to the deposit of Sydney's name. She should have cashed that check. Don't put that check back. Your friend missing too. She should have cashed that check. That
it paid off the debt to the house, girl. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say, don't sell her home. Don't let her take my home.
And that's the thing too that's the one part of this book I really appreciated, and that's what allowed me to give 2 stars. I loved how they talked about shacking. I love how they talked about how him and Kim shouldn't have bought that house together. They wasn't even married. I love how they talked about how Kim got him for his contribution, but decided I'm too wealthy for this. I need to move back to my people. Like I love
Yeah.
how they tackled real issues. Even
Mhm.
Drea and Sydney's friendship. I liked how they talked about that because sometimes there is a friend who uses the other friend not as a
Mhm, mhm.
equal, but as I gotta lean so heavily on you, right? Like that
Mhm.
weighs on the person. So I thought Drea wasn't talking to her because she just needed like to woosah. I didn't think she was dead either, for the record.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I liked how they talked about the gentrification. Like those were the elements that I was like, this is what I'm like, okay, this is good. This is interesting, tackling real issues, you
Yeah.
know. So that was kind
I
of cool.
even I even like the R Hood app kind of like add-ins that they put in when we get like that we can hear the text
Yeah,
That
messages.
was perfect.
Yeah, those were
That
really
was
good.
perfect. Because
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I've been on one of them apps because it's a white neighborhood over here. And they be on there reporting every little dang bark, every horn honk. It's insane.
See, and even how
That
they
was
had the subgroup, remember that? And that's why I didn't feel like it was bashing white people, because when you think of gentrification and when you talk about the cycle, they were literally bashing the people that do that. And if that just happened to be white folks, oh well, but they are the ones who usually come in, do some deviant, underhanded stuff, and take property and redevelop it and sell it for millions. So I didn't feel it was bashing at all. In fact, I felt it was right on time to say, hey, these are the people that's doing this, and what they're doing isn't right. So I no
Mhm.
bashing here.
Even
Um,
with the deed, the like the sketchiness of the deed thing
yes,
for the garden.
yes. And the cop spitting in her face, calling her a bee.
Uh-huh. It was a lot of like, yeah, a lot of subjects were covered, and a lot of education, at least for me, because there were some things that I didn't know about as far as like the connection between banks and
Ditto.
slave trade and stuff like that.
Ditto.
That was new to me. So I appreciated, adding in that knowledge and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
overall, I really enjoyed the book. This was a great pick, Boogie.
Thank you. Thank you. They
I
got
was
into it. Y'all, I was really laughing out loud and yelling while listening to this book.
see,
God.
see, I must have, I was like, I did do a
Oh,
couple like, huh.
but we have to talk. We have to talk about the very end where we find out, okay, where all the action happens, where everything kicks
Finally.
off. But we also
Fin-
find out that a couple members in the town, in the neighborhood, have like this, resistance, I want to say, going on. How did you guys feel
Mhm.
about that?
I felt it was it okay. It did feel a little bit like plot armor they just throw in there at the end. Like there were people always prepared for this who went through this before, so they knew what to do, and there was always some. But it just was like kind of relieving too for the elders in the community to be the saviors at the end.
Uh-huh.
Something about that felt warming for me, and it ties back into the history repeating itself, and we're going to do what we did historically and push through. We're going to make it because this is what we did. This happened before. This is what we did back then. This is what we're going to do now. And I like that. Something about looking back. It ties back into the themes of the story. Looking back to look forward, to move forward. I really appreciated that. But also it was like, it was a little obnoxious that Miss Courtney, or what her name was,
Uh-huh.
she was like, well, Sydney, yeah, and you don't listen, Sydney, because you hard-headed.
Right. Uh-huh.
That was a little like, all right.
I thought it was a little convenient,
Yeah,
at the end. I wish
yeah.
there was a little more tie-ins early in the book that we were like maybe kind of figuring out, like what's what. But overall, it was okay. I'll take it for what it is. It was all right, even through the convenience. Stephanie.
I thought two things. Number one, I never realized that gentrification wasn't good. And I think that when they talked about what the old timers observed years back and then currently, it put into perspective that while gentrification may quote unquote make it feel safe, it's not necessarily a good thing because it doesn't like help the community. And I did also like have a sigh of relief to know that these people were able to act whether or not people like Sydney were on board. Because Sydney went, guns blazing, as opposed to listening to Miss Connie and them and coming in and da 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 da. So I like that they were like, hey, we move how we need to move, regardless of what's going on around us. Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch, and I think that was one of the saving graces for the book for me personally.
And last, I wanted to bring this up before we end. I'm glad that Sydney wasn't scared to shoot. Oftentimes we get these lead characters and like, oh, I can't take a life. Oh, no, some people got that. I'm sorry. And if you in that situation, with the trigger, with the gun in your hand, you got to do what you got to do. So I'm glad that Sydney was able to just do what she had to do and not had no problems with it. Too many problems with it because you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, those are the thoughts.
She was unhinged. I had no doubt she would be. She was one incident away from not being with us anymore. So shooting was the least. She's like, well, you killed one and I killed one. I'm like, you really saying it that casually? Like, that's how we going with this? Like, okay,
they was in the trenches. They were in the war zone. That these are soldiers at this point. They had to do,
She did she did say and like have an internal conflict for like 30 seconds about killing the first two ladies. But then she was like, you know what? Because then after she found the lady had a gun on her, she was reaching for it. She went through the office and she was like, oh, this is their pictures with their families. My mind wants to separate them from this, but no, they're all part of this. And it was like, yeah, they're all a part of this. Shoot first, questions later.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Happy Easter.
But
Happy Easter.
That was our discussion. Thank you for joining us if you joined us. And join us next month for the next book. I don't know if we have, what are we doing? Whose turn is it? Is Stephanie else?
It's my turn. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We are back to finishing Boys in the Boat Part 2. Be ready, people.
All right, join us for the second half of Boys in the Boat next month. And yes, subscribe to our channels and we will see you later. Goodbye. Goodbye.